Okay, so here we go. So we're going to talk about like, let me just ask you for a second. Let's like talk very woman to woman here, okay? So Chava is the very first woman that's ever created, and her storyline isn't so simple. So when you look at the story of what happens in the Garden of Eden, like what's very striking? What's very striking to you? You could tell me. I just want to hear from you. Like what's striking to you in the Anybody have any ideas? Anybody want to unmute and say what they like, any feelings that you personally have when you think about Chava, when you think about what happened in the Garden of Eden? Anybody have any feelings that they think about?
For me, it's like that she was so easily convinced to.
Okay. That was incredible. Okay, so I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's the kind of stuff that I want to talk about, because that's what I find very hard too. Like, and you have to appreciate, like, these two people, Adam and Chava, were told, like, just hang on, just don't do this. There's so much you can do, tons you can do. You could eat from all the other trees, just this one. Don't eat from this one. And I promise you what? You will live forever. You'll have this beautiful life. It'll be so wonderful. And yet she's so easily convinced. So why is the Torah bringing this story out? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why do we always share our dirty laundry? A lot of religions don't like to talk about all the things people do wrong. Okay, like they try to make them everybody's a saint. So why is it important for us to kind of really look at this idea of the fact that she was so easily convinced? What's this trying to tell us?
That it's very easy for doubt to be sown in your mind.
Okay, beautiful. So that's exactly what's going on. Every one of these stories, right, is trying to set you up with an understanding of what your DNA is. Okay, so when you're looking at these stories, like, don't make that mistake and think, oh, this is like, thousands of years ago. How cool. Like, we're going to learn about this person's personality, but that really doesn't have anything to do with me. It's just like a cool story. No, the point is, it has everything to do with you, and that you can be as easily fooled, right? So you got to go through in your life. Do we make mistakes? 100%, right? Even Adam and Chava make mistakes under the most, what you would think is the most opportune circumstances. So Hashem's saying, like, every one of us can make mistakes. There's no doubt about it. Now, what do we have to do after we make mistakes?
Try and correct it.
Yeah, okay. You want to learn from them, and you want to try and prevent them. And Hashem actually tells you, which is tough, I think, for us to really understand. Like, we kind of feel like it's enough to say sorry. Like, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. But really in Torah, you have to do more than say you're sorry. Do you know that? Like, we're very into, like, say you're sorry. We tell that to our kids all the time. So this little kid like whacks his brother, and then the mother goes, why did you do that? That's terrible. Say you're sorry. And then he goes, sorry. Okay. But let's think about that. Okay. When you're an adult, right? And somebody does something like that to you, they hurt you, they this you, they that you. Is sorry enough? No, I see all these heads shaking. So Jody, what do you want? Okay.
No, the story is not enough. What it is you have to make sure that you don't do it again.
Okay, you have to make sure you don't do it again. And you have to do something called this. Tshuva. So when it's between another person, Hashem says, if you stole from somebody, it's not enough to just go, sorry. Okay. Or, you have to actually, in Torah, it's not even enough to go to jail. In fact, they don't really want you to go to jail. What they want you to do is pay back for your crime. So if you stole something worth $100, you have to work to pay back $200. That's a lot smarter than just throwing you in jail, where you just learn how to steal better, okay, when you come out, because all these people have these great ideas of how you could get away with it. So that's not the reality. So this is not going to be comfortable, okay? When I'm going to go through this stuff with you, I'm doing my disclaimer now, because in a politically correct world, when I'm going to tell you what the tikkun is, the correction for women is, you might not be comfortable with it. And guess what? That's okay. but that doesn't make it any less right. Do you understand that? Okay, so that's hard in Judaism. That's very hard. And in fact, you will see why it was hard for them not to eat from the tree, because we are still struggling with this tikkun. What's the tikkun? It's the same tikkun your parents told you when you were young that you hated. When they said things like, you can't, get drunk. And that you'd go, but why? All my friends get drunk. They all have so much fun. They go to these parties and it's like a blast. And we're all like idiots, but we just love it. And you go, no, sorry, you can't get drunk. And you can't go behind the wheel after you get drunk. And the kid goes, I don't get it. And then the parent is trying to give them 1,000 rational reasons. And the kid's not accepting it. So finally the parent says this one. Which one is it? Because I
told you so.
Yes. Okay. So this is tough. Like, it's tough. It was tough when you were a child, and it's a tough now. And it was tough for Adam and Chava. Hashem said, all these trees are amazing. And this one looks just like all the rest of them, but you can't eat from it. And the question was, why? And what was the answer?
As Hashem told you.
Yes. And that's not easy to swallow, right? So let's look at the setup here. Okay, so look at the setup. Okay, so here you are. You're just like this brand new, naive creation. Okay, you have done absolutely nothing to be who you are right now. And God has given you health and beauty. Like, they were absolutely beautiful people. You have a body, you have a soul. You're in a garden that is the most spectacular, beautiful, sensual, gorgeous, better than the Bahamas, better than, everybody call out, Hawaii, okay? Better than Israel, better than any place you've ever been in the whole world. God has given you everything, all right? Everything you could ever imagine. And then he just says, just this one thing. Now, what's the joke? And the same joke is on us. And the same joke is
want what you can't have.
Say that again. Okay, you want what you can't have, what you can't have. But what's the bigger joke is that it's the same thing with the parent and the child. Like, that child really can't live independently of the parent. Okay, your 12-year-old who wants to fight with you really can't earn a living. Did you notice that? Okay, most of them don't know how to cook or clean or do anything. And they really probably couldn't take care of themselves. Yet you feel like you have I'm just being honest, okay? These are not comfortable things to hear. The chutzpah to tell Hashem, you know better. Do you see how it's sounding? Is everybody getting what I'm saying?
Gail, could I ask you something? I never actually thought of that this way. Was Hashem testing them?
Okay, now you're going to find out. That's exactly what's going on. That's exactly what was going on. You just hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what was going on. The only thing you can ever really do, the only thing you are ever in control of is your decision between right and wrong, good and bad, true and false, close to Hashem or not. That's all you really are in control of, okay? Everybody's got to really finally integrate that idea, okay? That's all, okay? Hashem set them up with everything. And now he's just telling them, this is the one simple thing I want you to do. But I don't want you to do it, listen carefully, blindly. When I say, it's very different. Like, I want you to really appreciate this, because we've got to realize that this is an intelligent decision. It's not, I told you so. I saw Biden, he was like shaking his finger on, like, I told you, if you took, it was like bizarre. They want to give $450,000 to every immigrants who came to the country unlawfully, who were separated from their children. Like, it's bizarre, okay, absolutely bizarre. That's $500,000. So it's going, well, if you were separated from your children, you would want money. Who told you to come to this country? It's illegal. We told you not to. Okay, but we're not giving you, now we're going to give you $500,000 for doing so. These things are a little wild, okay? These ideas are wild, okay? They're crazy. So when we're saying to you, it's not that Hashem is saying, you listen to me because I said so. He's saying, you listen to me because use your head. Not from an emotional ego, I want to be independent and I think smarter and I know better than God. No, from actually rationally thinking this out. Who knows better? When you are a child and your parents are telling you things like brush your teeth and all these things, is it because they are tyrants or because they literally know better and they want to take care of your health? What's the answer?
They know better.
Yeah. Why do they know better? Because they have the maturity and the experience and the know-how. Why does God know better than us? Okay.
Because he knows better, because he has the maturity.
Okay, he's the creator.
He's the creator.
He created the world.
He's the sustainer. He's this, he's that, he's the universe, he's the makom, he left you the Torah. There's no, like if we ever would stop for a minute and digest these ideas, you would realize that Judaism is not asking you for blind faith. It's asking you for statistic probability. It's asking you to investigate with your brain. Do you see what I'm saying? And that what was supposed to happen with this concept of the Eitz Hadas. Okay? The idea was to have da'as. Okay, so I say the word Chabad. Tell me what it means. What's Chabad stand for? Okay, I think Alana knows because I see her mouth is moving, but I can't hear her. So if you could unmute, that would be better. Okay, I can read your lips, okay? But it was Chachma, Bina, and Das. Okay, so let's really understand what, okay, good girl. Let's understand what Chachma, Bina, and Das are, because we really have to know, okay? So Chachma, this is like Eitz Hadas, okay? God is trying to give them the depth of understanding, okay? So Chachma means it's raining, okay? Bina means, well, if I want to go outside and it's raining, I better get an umbrella. And Das means fill it in. Yes, okay, she's amazing, Alana. Even though you can't hear her, I could read her lips. Okay, so she's saying, you take, was I right? You said you take the umbrella, okay? So that's Das. Okay, so here's the story, okay? We are in Gan Eden, okay? We're all in Gan Eden together, right? Hashem says, here's all these beautiful trees. Enjoy, enjoy, eat them. Even the tree of life that will give you life forever. Okay, go ahead, take it. Just don't eat from this Eitz Hadas. I want you to come up with your own understanding. Your own understanding. So what's the own understanding? I'm going to start with the Chachma. Hashem says, don't eat from the Eitz Hadas. So what's the second thought? What's the second thought? Don't eat from the Eitz Hadas. So what was Hashem looking for you to put together here? If Hashem says, don't eat from the Eitz Hadas, then what's he telling you?
It's not for your best interest.
Ah, Sandy, I love you. Okay, that's exactly right. That's exactly the next step. Okay, that's the Chochmah is piece of information. Don't eat from the Eitz Hadas. Bina, deeper understanding. Hashem would only tell me not to eat from the Eitz Hadas because it isn't good for me. That's the Bina. Now what's the Das? Now what's the real depth? Raining, umbrella.
You don't eat it.
You don't eat it. Okay, that was the big test of the day. Did you get it? That was the big test of the day that would have connected them to Hashem forever. That was the big test of the day. That's all. That's all that story is about. That's the sum total of the entire story. So yeah?
I'm just wondering, was there any communication though between Hashem and
okay. So there is. The communication is, I've given you this beautiful garden. It's all for you. Just don't eat from this tree. And now I need you, right? I need you to use your seichel to make a choice here. Now think the choice through, because what we're going to
sometimes, kids will challenge their
Right,
parents.
right,
Or,
right.
debate, why can't I? Well, why
Right,
can't I?
right. So that's
So-
kind of, but here we're looking at, you're looking for a certain level of maturity from these two people. Do you see what I'm trying to say? A spiritual level of maturity. And I'm going to explain more. In other words, we're going to learn from here where the Torah tells you, Hashem gives you exactly the challenge that you can pass. In other words, Hashem would never ask you something you can't do. You've got to look, imagine coming into the world, born into this incredible, gorgeous, beautiful, like even now I'm like we're marveling when we see a daffodil. You guys ever pick up, anybody here have their favorite flower? Like the lilies and these flowers, like you could just stare at the flower and think like, what kind of artist is Hashem? Like what's going on here? So imagine going into this perfect, incredible world, right? So it would behoove you. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like Hashem is giving you enough of an understanding that you are capable of coming up with that seichel and understanding to be able to, right, make that right decision. In other words, Hashem gave them enough information that they would have been able to make the right decision, enough of a situation that they could have made the right decision. In fact, it was probably easier then than it is now, because once they ate from the Eitz Hadas, then black and white turned a little gray. It's actually very much harder for us because it was more from the outside, like they were looking out. Today you have yin and yang all inside of you. It makes it even harder to have clarity. Okay, so here we get this Eitz Hadas. So what do you have to do? What's the hardest part of what Hashem was asking you is to be mevater your ego. Okay, ego means edge God out. That's what it stands for, ego. What does ego want? Ego wants to be God. Okay, and in fact, they rationalized it a lot like that, right? And even when the snake tries to convince Chava, yeah, no, Hashem doesn't want you to know because then you'll be like him. He wants to keep you dumb, right? Do you see what's going on here? So do you see how many forces are like, this is the same thing that we have every day in our lives. These are the same voices that you're hearing 24/7. Okay, this is where you need the tikkun part, right? Where you have to learn. So what does it say? To really be able to have listened, they would have had to tap into something called humility. So what does humility mean? Okay, we really need a clear definition on humility. So what's humility? Remember? Does everybody remember? Because it's such an important character trait. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little hint. My strengths come from
Hashem.
Yes.
Hashem.
And my weaknesses come from
Hashem.
Yes. And I am a work in
Progress.
and so is everyone else. And that's humility. And we all can recognize that the strengths and the negatives are all from Hashem. Everybody's trying their best to work with the tools that they were dealt with. I'm not going to take pride in all my incredible accomplishments because without Hashem giving me a breath, I don't even stand a chance, right? Right? Okay, perfect. So this is the thing. Now, the next thing you have to do, which is really tough, okay? This is the word, this is the phraseology. So everybody think about it. So it says, Oseh ritzoncha kiritzono. Okay, this is really hard. Oseh means, say again, Shiriel? Shirel, sorry.
Osek,
Oseh is not to do.
La'asot, to do.
La'asot means to make, right? La'asot is to make.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So you have to make your
God's
will,
your will,
his
God's
will. Okay, that's tough. Make your will, his will. Just like it says, very interesting. It doesn't say choose for yourself a rabbi. Do you know that? It says oseh lecha rav. Make for yourself a rabbi. What does that mean? I have to make. What does it mean? I have to make it happen. What does it mean? Can't I just choose it? Can't I just, change my will? What does it mean? Make your will. What does that mean?
Decide that you want this rabbi and listen to him regardless of what you
Right.
like and what you don't like.
Yes. Okay, you're gonna have to make, like in other words, Hashem says, be smart, choose a rabbi. No joke. Like go out there and choose him. But once you've chosen him, you really respect him. You know that, most of the time he says what you need to hear. And he's what we call das Torah. He has a real depth and understanding of Torah. Then you're going to have to make him your rabbi, because there's going to come a day when he's going to say, sorry, that dishwasher isn't kosher. And you're going to go, what? Have to buy a new dishwasher? This rabbi doesn't know anything. Okay. And you're going to have to make, okay. So the same thing with Hashem's will, okay? We are born with a Yetzer Hara. We're born with the Yetzer Hara. There's a lot of questions that you will see we're going to ask. Why did Hashem create the snake? Why did he create the Yetzer Hara? Like, what's the point of this? Like, just make it easy, okay? We're created with these things. We've got to harness these things, and that's your mitzvah. So when Adam and Chava were told, don't eat from the tree, the mitzvah is, even if you want to, don't eat from the tree. That's when it's a mitzvah. That's when it will connect you to Hashem. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? So like if it would be like, okay, here, don't eat from the tree. Okay, no problem. There's not going to be a lot of growth there. So where's the growth? Where's the acceptance of Hashem? Where's the connection in a relationship? The same thing, like in Judaism, it's not easy for people to hear this, but in Judaism, the Torah wants you to be intimate with only the person you marry. Now, you say that out loud today, and people really think you're crazy, right? They would think you're crazy. Like, I'm being honest, and I'm not even joking. Like, I wish I was kidding, but most people would look at that as such an archaic, ridiculous thing to say. I should be able to be with whoever I want, whenever I want, and it's none of anybody's business. All right. But Torah tells you, you see, to connect and have a very deep relationship with someone, Shem says you need the clarity of one. If you are all over the place with a million different people, then you just lose what it all means. Do you know what I mean? Right? And then it's very hard for you. It's very hard for people to be close to people, because what happens is they keep thinking about the other people they were with. It's very, very hard. Like the Torah tells you, when you're with this person, you got to think about this person. You can't have eyes for somebody else. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So this is what it is. Like Hashem is saying, if you really want to be close to me, you really care for me, and you really believe that I care for you, you really believe I am your Father in heaven, you really believe that I'm looking out for your best interest, then when I'm asking you to do this, the greatest way that we could have this connection is if you do what I say. And you aseh ritzoncha, you make your will my will. I know that your body, I know that you're Yetzer Hara. And that's what you'll see with Chava. She goes, are you kidding? Like, the tree's so beautiful. The fruit looks so luscious. And then she starts to rationalize, which is rational lies, Lies, right? And she says, God could never make a tree so beautiful and put up a sign on it, don't eat. Okay. Do you see what's going on? So we have to really appreciate all this, because it's lessons for our own lives. It's really lessons for our own lives. Okay. So we have to, now we understand. Okay. So now we get that idea. Okay. Right? Because you're looking at it, oh, it looks so good and it smells so good. And why would Hashem say you can't have it? You hear that all the time in Judaism. A lot of times, like, it is hard. It is hard for people when you say, oh, you can't put the light on Shabbos. Like, they're looking at you like, why not? Like, wouldn't that make Shabbos so much better? I forgot to turn the light on in the bathroom. Now I can't put the light on. Like, that's crazy. Right? So we have to, like, there's this part of us that's, we have to make my ratzon your ratzon. And then Hashem says, when you make my ratzon your ratzon, it's going to only make you a better person. Like, I don't know about you. I wish I had it. Like, doesn't anybody here, I don't know about you, like, when it comes to self-discipline, anybody wish they had more self-discipline? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the truth. Every one of us. Like, it's just something we, like every morning I try to get up like a lion, but it doesn't happen. It's like, I got to give myself 5 minutes of extra schluff. I can't do it. Like, I try, but I just can't. Okay. Do you know what I'm trying to say? That so many times I just wish, like, I get the discipline. You know what I'm trying to say? Okay, beautiful. So now we're going to now what we want to do is now we want to look, right? And we want to see how can intelligent people, like even people like Korach, okay, was considered the wealthiest guy, and he was intelligent, and he was a leader, and he tried to take Moshe down. Like, could you get more crazy? Could you get more crazy than to try to lead a rebellion against Moshe in the wilderness and say that Moshe is a nepotist and he's a terrible leader? And he's like, it's like you look at the story and you go like, where was that guy's brains? Like, who do you think Hashem's going to choose? Okay, you know, like this is like, that's like a nutty thing to do, which you will see, which is very interesting. The reason he fell was because of his
ego.
Say that again, his ego, but who else?
No, it was his wife.
It was his wife. Okay, now we need to understand, like from these stories, like even the story with Chava, like Chava brings down. Yes, she does. It's not in the reverse. Okay, so we as women, like you have to realize how powerful you are and what an influencer you are. Okay, like we sometimes don't think so, but you know, you are like the Torah does not stop talking about you are the cornerstone of the family. And the Gemara says, a wicked man could marry a good woman and he will become good. Like a guy who's like a bum and he's a woman can bring him up, right? But a good man, if he marries a wicked woman, she will take him down. He won't be able to withstand it. It's a very interesting idea. Okay, so now you see it in more than one place. If the woman goes awry, she takes the whole bundle down. And I really feel I've seen it in my own life a million times, like dealing with different people. I've seen it a million times. It's 100% true. The bigger influence on the family and on the kids and on the atmosphere is 100% the woman. And that's it. Like we can't deny these things. Like I know that may not be politically correct, but I'm talking historically, statistically, you know what I mean? Whatever you see it, okay? So this is very important. So the question to us is like, so how did she do it? Like, why would she do it? Okay, so number one, we make a very big mistake, and society has really fed this to us. We look at, it's very interesting, beautiful as always being good, and ugly as always being bad. You know, it's very funny. It was like training somebody today. I was really shocked. I don't know. I said something to her. I don't know what I said to her. And then she turned to me. I'm not like those people who think fat people are bad. And I'm like, what did you just say? Like, I was really shocked. I said, what are you talking about? She goes, you know, everybody thinks that if you're heavy, you're lazy, you're this, you're that. I'm not one of those people. And I'm like, whoa, okay. Like what? Okay, so here is the issue. Like if you take a look in even comic books, okay, even the way they portray characters, the evil guy always looks, you know, ugly, and the beautiful person always looks like they're so amazing. So you know who plays a lot with that on you? Madison Avenue, okay, right? Like all the advertisements, you know, they always associate like cigarette smoking happens to be this gorgeous person is smoking a cigarette. You know? Then on the package, they show you the lung cancer and the person who's like, that looks horrible. But in the commercial, you're never going to see. Don't you love like Coke? They always have these like gorgeous people, size 2, drinking Coke. Do you know how much sugar and calories there is in one cup? You know, if you're right, you drink 2 cans of Coke, you can say goodbye, you know, in terms of calories. Like it's crazy. So there's this false illusion that if something is beautiful, it has to be good. So that was the first thing. She's looking at this tree, right? And her eyes show her beautiful. Beautiful must taste good. Beautiful must be the smartest. Beautiful is the luckiest, no? I told you I used to work out at Women's Fitness, and I once had a trainer, and she was like very pretty and this and that. She was such a mess. She was a mess. Like she'd always, I felt like I was a therapist. I never felt like I got any training. I was like her therapist. One day I looked at her and I said, I just want to tell you something. The joke's on all of us in this room, because all of us sit there and envy you. And we all think because you're beautiful and you have this great figure, your life is perfect. I'm like, so glad I met you, because now I realize what an illusion I was living. Do you know what I mean? It took a lot for me to admit to it, but it's the truth. Okay, so Chava's looking at this and going, Shem wouldn't create this beautiful tree and not let me eat it. Now, what's so interesting? The greatest rabbis between you and me, they're not so good looking. Okay, if you ever noticed, they're usually like 5'2". You know what I'm saying? They have these like squiggly long beards and funny payas, and you know what I mean? And none of them wear good suits from, you know, what's it called, from Italy. They usually, like, let's be real, okay? A lot of the Rebbitzins, except for Rebbitzin Jungreis, you know, a lot of them just look very nice and average. You know what I mean? And very like, just like this. So what's the Torah trying to teach you? Like, you have to be very careful about judging the book by its cover, right? So you got to be careful, because the world is going to try to sell you a lot of empty books. They're going to sell you a lot of beautiful covers. And then when you buy it and you open it up, there's nothing inside. All right, so we have to be really careful. So I want to tell you a beautiful story I heard from Hannah Jervel. She was talking about one of her students. So she said one of her students was drop dead gorgeous, okay? Just like this stunning, gorgeous girl. And someone made her a shidduch with this guy who was beyond, okay? So it's like Brad Pitt marrying Jolia, whatever her name is, okay? Like these two like gorgeous, gorgeous people. And even the girl's mother, when she saw him, she said like, oh my gosh, like this is beyond, like the two of you would be the most beautiful couple in the world. You know, you got to go out with this guy. Like, this is unbelievable. So the girl went out with him. And after the first date, she said no. It's like everybody was shocked. Like, so this Hannah Jervel was her teacher. She said to her, like, why'd you say no? So she said, you know what? He was really very shallow. There wasn't a lot there. So she said, honestly, tell me, how did you pass that test? Okay, like this guy was gorgeous. So she said, when I went out with him, I envisioned that he had this really ugly mole on his face. So it stopped thinking about his beauty and it would start thinking about what's really inside. And I think that's like such an incredible reality. And I think that could be why Hashem in some ways doesn't make these rabbis stunning, gorgeous, whatever, because you would be falling for a different reality. Like, you need to fall for the reality of who these people really are. They are holy people who have studied, who have PhD, DDDs in Torah. Do you know what I mean? And not like, I'm not going to say who, but I know there was this like rabbi who's a really good looking rabbi. They used to call him the Ken. Okay. The Ken of rabbis. So he always had a very popular class. It makes sense. So it's just hard for him. He deserved his popular class. He really, really did. But I'm saying there was that draw, right? So even in Judaism, we believe in beauty. Like, people try to buy beautiful Torah, a beautiful mezuzah, a beautiful this, a beautiful that. But guess what? We check the mezuzah. And if the inside of the mezuzah isn't kosher, I don't care how beautiful the outside is. If the Torah has a silver, gorgeous crown and the most velvety cover you could ever imagine, one letter's missing on the Torah, puzzle, just like any old Torah that's, 50 years old that came from Europe, okay? It's not gonna make any difference. So this is very important for us to understand. We have to really look in our own lives and be careful that we don't do that we don't put beautiful and that means good. Do you know what I mean? And not so attractive, that means bad. That's a very unfair reality. Okay, so we need to think about it, all right?
Gail, can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
How come in the Torah then every single woman, like Sarah, Rachel, not Leah so much.
So I'm going to tell you why they'll talk about that. Okay.
Yes, they were all just, the Torah says they were beautiful women.
Right.
And beautiful.
I'm so happy you brought that up. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. So what do you see though? That it's very important for us to understand. They were very beautiful on the outside, but they didn't live from that beauty whatsoever. Like, it was not, it wasn't a main feature to them at all. Like they say when Abraham goes down to take Sarah, right? There's a famine in the land and they have to go down to Mitzrayim. And it says it's the first time that Abraham went, uh-oh, I think she's really pretty. Okay, these guys are going to be after her, because he only saw which beauty? Right, the inner beauty. So, and that there's even a test to that story. Like, imagine being so beautiful. Like, it's very hard to be beautiful. Really, it is. Like, because I have friends who are extremely beautiful. It's very hard to be beautiful and not want a lot of attention. Your beauty is, when you're very beautiful, what happens? Your beauty is your card. Right? Like, you ever see these, once watched this TED talk, I can't remember who the model was. She said she never paid a traffic ticket in her life because she was so beautiful. So she's on the stage, like, it was the most, did you see it? Amita, did you see it? Okay, so she's on stage, okay? So she's wearing something like really gorgeous, and she looked beautiful, like, and big stiletto heels and everything, and her hair and all this. And as she's talking, on purpose, she's going like this, taking a ponytail, put her hair in a ponytail, took off the stiletto shoes, did this, did that, and got dressed very like normal, nothing, you know. And then she said, "Can you hear me better now?" And she was 100% right. She was 100% right. Like, before, you were like that person is so beautiful. So the Torah will show you two things. You can be very beautiful and you still can live from the inside. You can be very beautiful and you don't have to flaunt it. The world, though, unfortunately, for Abraham and Sarah and these people to do kiruv and to attract like people to at least come to notice them and respect them, they have to do that sometimes, right? Right? Like, the kind of, you know, sometimes that's the way it is, right? Like, if you look at, you know, certain, like the kiruv outlook, when people are going out to do kiruv, you know, often, like, they won't even have a, you know, it's Mitch, you know, it's this, it's not Michal, you know, whatever. Do you know what I mean?
It's what
Right?
people, yeah.
Right. So you could see it, but they never used it or abused it. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the important part. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, but it does gender a certain kind of respect, right? When you are looking to influence, but they didn't use it or abuse it. Do you know what you get what I'm saying? Yes? Okay. Okay. So good. Thank you. Okay. So now, okay, what's the huge lesson here? So Hashem will create beautiful things and your senses will be awakened. But the question is, Torah tells you, even if you look at something, oh, wow, it's really beautiful. Now what has to kick in? Your seichel, okay? Your neshama. You have to evaluate it clearly. Okay, that's the issue here. That's why the Torah will say, there's a line in the Torah, don't go after your eyes and your heart. Meaning, don't go after, just, you lust it, you want it, you see it. Like, the same thing. Okay, listen, for everybody on a diet, okay, this is our issue, right? What do they tell you? Don't bring home the cookies. Don't bring home the cake. Why do they tell you not to bring it home? Okay, everybody here admit to it, okay? If not, I will.
Because then we are tempted to eat it.
Yes, once you see it, you want it. So the Torah is telling, like, the dietitian is saying, be smart. You won't see it. You won't be so tempted. You won't have it. But the world is full of temptation, and the world will show you all kinds of things, and you will stumble on them. So now Hashem says, you're right. So now you're getting very emotional and you're getting very like sensory and you want it. So Hashem says, before you jump, take a deep breath and think. You're right. This tree is very beautiful. Let's be Chava, okay? This tree is gorgeous. Guess what? I have a feeling all the other trees were gorgeous too. Anybody ever do this? You went shopping, tons of beautiful outfits. There were 2 skirts. You really liked both. They both were gorgeous. And then you decide you're going to go home. You can only really take one. You don't have the money to spend on everything. So you take this one home. And then what do you think of all night?
The other one.
Okay. Now, why is that? Because it really is so much better? No.
Why? You want it all.
Yeah, you want it all. 100%. You want them both. Or now you start thinking, what, the Yetzer Hara, he puts all these things in your head. What did you do? You lost this opportunity. You'll never find that skirt again. What do you mean? You're like suddenly all right. So Hashem says like this, whoa, Nelly, take the horsey, right? Because we said body is horse, soul is rider. Put it into Chava, you're right. This is really beautiful tree. But Hashem said you don't have to have it. He knows best. You know what's so good? There's 100 other trees that Hashem said I could have. That's seichel, right? But if you get so involved with what you see, like this happens to all of us, no? Like, right? Right? So the cookies are there, but that's okay. There's carrots and celery and all. There's healthy food. What tastes better? Nothing tastes better than skinny, you know? You ever hear that line? Nothing tastes better than skinny, and then somebody puts a comma. That means you haven't tasted my brownies. Okay. Right? But you know what I'm trying to say? Like there is this seichel, there is this ability to take the horsey and to really rein him in. And you'd feel great after you reined him in. It's just work. And it's oseh. You got to do it, right? You got to make it happen. So this is very important for us. You should know in the Torah, it's interesting. Like Haman and Esav were very attractive. And they were very attractive. So that's this idea of like the beauty that you use to abuse and the mistake where people will be influenced by them. They were very good manipulators. Okay, so you have to be very careful. Okay. So when you're looking at something from a sensory perspective, right, it's not very deep. And it's usually you want it very quickly. So that's where you know, like, wait a minute. Okay. Okay, now another thing that she rationalized. Okay, we're going into the rationalizations. If it's beauty, it's good. Then with the snake, Hashem would never create anything that wasn't for good. Of course, this is for a good thing, right? You know. So, but what's the reality? What was the snake telling you, honey? What was he saying? Things like, "Oh, I heard you can't eat from any of the trees." Well, if you ate from this one, you know, then Hashem would, you'd be just like him. You'd be smart. You'd be strong. You'd be great, right? Like, okay, so wait a minute here. Hashem does create things that are wrong, things that are untrue, right? Things that are bad, things that distance you from Hashem. Why does he do that again?
To challenge you.
Right, so that you will make the right free will choice and you will show your muscle. Because if you don't create you, it's going to be one big boring life. Okay, I'm just going to tell you the truth. I know some of us are like, can't it just be boring? No, but the truth is, what would you have here? Like, what does people have? The 400th, you know, hot dog, 500 trips to the Bahamas, 600, you know, pounds of Coke. Like, what do you really have, right? You have nothing that you could show for yourself. So Hashem says, I can give you what really matters. You are going to create you, your character, your reality, your connection, your personality, your good deeds. You will create you. Do you know what I mean? I can't give you anything better. All right. So yes, I have put naughty stuff in the world, and there's a reason for it, because that's what you have to choose between. And every time you say no to the snake, 1,000 air miles to heaven, and a much better person and a much happier person in this world. But that snake will be there, and he'll be there to challenge you so that you could grow. He will be there to press you and to put you into the dark and into this and into that. And it's all to make you grow. So I just want to read something so beautiful that Leanne sent me today. And I really thought it was so nice. I really put it here for a different place, but where is it right now? In my notes. I wrote it on the top because it really talks about what challenges do to you. Okay, where did I do it? Where did I write it? Sorry, just if you could give me a minute, because I'd really like to find it. So grapes must be crushed to make wine. Diamonds form under pressure. Olives are pressed to release oil, and seeds grow in darkness. Whenever you feel crushed, pressure, pressed, and in darkness, you are in a powerful place to transformation. Trust the process. Okay, so that's what's going on. Okay, our having that struggle with all these free will choices is the process of transformation, right? You're going to a bigger and a better place. in all the little things. I don't want you to have to be crushed and schmesheled. And I'm talking about, even the little things, this one said this to you, that happened, this happened, that happened. Even just making the choice, like, I really want to eat that. Okay, I won't. You know what I mean? Like, even these little things. Okay, so that's what we have to understand on what's going on here. Okay, so let's move. So now, okay. All right, so here's the snake's strategies. Okay, here's the snake strategy. There will always be a little truth in every lie, right? Because there was little truth, right? You were told you couldn't eat from the tree. He doesn't say that tree of knowledge. He goes like this. First he says to her, oh, I heard you can't eat from any of the trees. What's the point of that? What was the point of that remark? Like, think about that one. Think. You can't eat from any of the trees.
Put her on the defensive.
Yes, put you on the defensive. And what else? Like,
and to make you think about all the other trees and the fact that Hashem said that you can't eat from that tree specifically.
Right. Like, it makes you like, that's not true. I can have, like when people become religious, like, you guys are going to have the worst life. It's so boring. You can't go to the mall. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do this. You can't do that. Right? Like, oh, this is like the most no fun place. So for a minute, the first reaction is, hey, maybe they're right. So they exaggerate. Okay? Exaggeration is a very good manipulative tool. Okay? So it's good for you to know. Right? Your parents are terrible. We can't go to them. They're terrible. You know what I mean? Like, it's an exaggeration, right? We exaggerate. So that's like a real tool of the Yetzer Hara. Be very careful. Like, when you're looking at this as something like, if I don't eat from that tree, I'm gonna die. You know what I mean? Right? Did we do that? If I don't eat that cake, I'll never manage for tomorrow. Right? Whatever it is. Okay. So it's this incredible exaggeration. And there's this little bit of truth inside. Right? So then it was very interesting. He played a lot on, like, there was a lack of facts here, which was a big mistake. She turned around and she said, what are you talking about? That's not the case. We can eat from all the trees in the garden. We just can't touch, and we just can't eat from the tree of knowledge. Was she correct in what she said? No, she wasn't.
She never said anything about not touching.
Right, exactly. Okay, so then you also have to know that if you want to make clear decisions, what do you need?
Facts.
Yeah, you need facts. Okay, so a lot, like I find today, okay, I think that's where all of us are feeling very, what's the word? Confused, because there's so little clarity. Like, you know what I mean? I think, like, there's so little trust anymore. We don't know if science, like, is COVID or, mask, no mask, vaccine, no vaccine. Like, it's just like, oh, right? It's like very hard to be able to pinpoint what's right and wrong here, because there's just this big mix up of facts, right? We're getting news from here and news from there and news from there. So what's the Torah trying to tell you? Saying when it comes to keeping Torah, you have to be really careful with this. Like, you don't want to take on extra things that are not even true. You have to know, like, Adam Harishon is punished later for this. And then we have this mitzvah in the Torah, do not add on to the Torah and do not distract from the Torah. Because if you move that authentic document around, then the clarity is gone and the truth is been tampered with. So very important for us also, when you're looking at information and people are telling you things and Hashem says, no, you shouldn't do it. And you start rationalizing, like, well, that's not exactly, and it's really just a minhag, or it's really, just clarify first before you take action. And when you're explaining things to people, explain what really is halacha and what really might just be a minhag that you do in your family, so that people don't think that that's what they have to do too if they don't have to, right? So you want to give people like letter of the law, and you want to give people clear information, and you want to take on yourself, right? When you're starting to feel like Hashem told you to do something, you can say this, okay? There's ways to approach this. You could say, you know what, Hashem, I really appreciate this mitzvah. I just can't do it. It's not for me yet. I'm not there. I'm going to try my best, but I don't look at that mitzvah and go, No, that's not 100% right. God would never say something stupid like that. You know what I'm trying to say? What's the difference between the two ways I just said this? What's the difference?
You're making things what is good for you.
Right. So, and what's the difference when you say to Hashem, look, I'm growing. I'm going to try. I'll take on this little bit of it. I can't keep the whole Shabbos yet, but I will do X, Y, and Z. What's the difference?
That means you trust God for everything you did.
Yes, you're still connected. Okay, you are still connected. You are working on making his will your will. You're staying connected. You aren't rationalizing and becoming your own chacham. Okay, so we have to be very careful. Okay, here's another reality of where mistakes are made. So now you see, because the Yetzer Hara is playing on you, you don't have enough information, get more information before you make the decision. He's playing on you, he's exaggerating, it's making it like, if you don't have this, it's gonna be the last thing you ever do, it's gonna be terrible for you. It like plays with the senses, this is so beautiful, this is so this, it has to be so good. Okay, so another thing that the Torah tells you, which is a very interesting line, okay, so I'm going to tell you this interesting line. It says like this, the Kitov tells us, tells us, Hamar mar velo hamatok matok. So what's he saying? He said, don't be fooled in life, right? Hamar mar, don't always think that the bitter is bitter and the sweet is sweet, because it isn't always the case. So the Jewish people, let's say, it's scary in Jewish history, okay? This is a very good lesson in Jewish history, right? So like, let's say the Jews in Germany, what did they think of Germany? Yeah, wait.
That was Yerushalayim.
Yeah, they called Berlin Yerushalayim. They changed the siddur. They never wanted to go back to Israel. They took it out. There was a whole movement. Everything changed. They wanted to do Shabbos on Sunday actually, but instead they just put an organ in on Shabbos, and they made they made steeples and all this kind of stuff. Like they have nowhere to go. Like what would be better than just to assimilate into this phenomenal, incredible culture? So it looked so sweet, but it wasn't sweet. So we have to be very careful on what we think is sweet. And then sometimes you think things are bitter, but they're not really bitter. Sometimes like hard work and a challenge and it's not really bitter. Sometimes it's the best thing that ever happened to you in your whole life. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So Torah says, be very careful with this too, because there's like this salesman out there called the Yetzer Hara who's trying to confuse you. Even the Jews, when they went down to Egypt, originally thought that the Egyptians were the best thing that ever happened. And they also sweet talked them into becoming slaves, right? They told them, you're such loyal citizens. We need you to build these beautiful places. You can see all the Jewish developers running, you know what I mean, right? They're all developing Egypt. And then they go, and now you will do it as a slave. Right? And things changed. All right. So that's the idea. So we have to be very careful about all this. Okay. Okay. So what's going on with us? We always have to, our question, like Ezahu Chacham, who is the wise person? The person who sees the bigger picture. And that's what we said, even we're talking about the Parsha. That was the whole thing with Esav, like, give me the red. Just give me the red. I want to eat, and I want to eat now. I don't care about a bigger picture. I don't care about, world to come. I'm going to eat, I'm going to drink, I'm going to die tomorrow. So I don't need to worry about this garbage. Just give it to me now. All right. So Torah says, your job, it's not easy. Like, this is not easy stuff. Your job is, especially today, to be mindful. Take a breath before you make a decision. That's what the Torah is not telling you. Take a breath before you make a decision. And remember, make your will Hashem's will. And it's going to work out really well. If it doesn't work out well for you right here and right now in this world, it will work out well for you in the ultimate, eternal, forever world, which is a very long time. Okay? In this world, I don't know about all of you, but I feel like my birthdays are going on hyper mode. Okay, like every time I turn around and it's like my birthday, I'm like, okay, right? Okay, I don't care who you are, even little kids. Like even my little grandchildren, like I blink my eyes and now they're like 13. I'm like, what, 14? You know what I'm saying? Right? So it's just like moving very quick. So Hashem's saying like, make your decisions with the bigger picture in mind. Don't look at the immediate reality here. Okay. So what else did I want to tell you? Okay. I said that. Okay. We said, sorry. I just want to like find out where we are here. Okay, so it's very, very interesting. So what happened here is that Chava looked, right? Then she rationalized. So we have to learn from her. What's the tikkun? You're going to see beautiful things. You need to try to keep your seichel, keep your head on. Your idea is to keep your head on and to be aware of the enemy. Once you find yourself having to rationalize what you're about to do, then know it's the thing you probably shouldn't be doing. If I have to rationalize why I'm doing something, then there's something wrong with the picture. So it's an important thing for us to keep in mind. So there's two kinds of what we call like lusts, okay? Two kinds of things that dray you a cup. One is in the 10 Commandments, where it says lo sachmod. What does that mean? You shouldn't covet, okay? So covet means things that are very physical. They're real. They're in front of your face. You go to your friend's house and it's tough. Okay, you go to your friend's house and she goes, I just want to show you my new Renault. I just want to show you my new car. I just want to show you my new dress. I just want to show you my new this. Very physical, real thing. So you're looking at it and you're like, I want to be happy for her. Right? But there's this little part of you going, but I wish I had it. Right? Okay, so what's the Torah tell you? So now you're going to not rationalize. Now you have to really think. Now let your neshama kick in. All right, so what do you say to yourself so that you'll feel better? I'm being real. Okay, I'm asked open forum. What would you say to yourself? You're in this place. She's got this like brand new whatever. You don't have that brand new whatever, right? So what would you say to make yourself feel better? Be able to be very mature about this spiritual maturity over here. And what would I answer instead of coveting? What would I say?
I'm happy with what I have.
Okay, I'm happy with what I have. What else?
It was meant for her.
Yeah, it was meant for her. It doesn't take away from me. And if I was meant to have it, I would have it. And if I can somehow have it, fine, I'll go to work. I'll do whatever I can. But if it's not really for me, it's not for me. And I was really happy with my house before I walked into this one. So that's okay. This is my little test. You know what I mean? I'm going home and being happy again. All right. That's, you know what I'm saying? You're going to look through this with seichel. If I really needed, Hashem would give it to me. If he didn't give it to me, I probably don't really need this. And that's okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, so we're going to talk ourselves into it. And this comes, I think, honestly, with maturity, right? Like when you're younger, these things are harder, right? There's a much greater temptation. You want so much more. Like, it's the truth. All right. So there's a concept of like the chronological age, and then there's a concept of your spiritual age, just like there's a chronological age and there's a body age. Right? You don't exercise at all. You could be 30 and your body is as fit as a 60-year-old because you sat on the couch all day. You could be a 60-year-old who worked out all the time and your body is fit as the average 30-year-old. Do you see what I mean? So it works the same with spirituality. You could be getting old, but your spirituality, you know, you're feeling a sense of self and purpose and blah, blah, blah. If you haven't learned anything or done anything, then you could still be the same 16-year-old head sitting in this older body. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, good. Okay, so very important for us. Okay, so the other kind of, you'll see in the Torah a lot, it's a taiva. That's a much harder one to control. It's a very interesting idea. It's a lust, and it wants things that are not necessarily, can you hold them physically? Like you lust after honor. You want to be noticed. You want to be validated. You want to walk into the room and you want all eyes turning at you. Do you know what I mean? Those are tough. Okay. So Torah tells you, because where does that one get lost? It goes into the world of imagination. Do you know what I mean? Right? And when you start the world takes a lot of advantage of that. Do you know what I mean? Like the whole movie industry, like you laugh, you can watch these movies and your emotions are really what you are bawling your eyes out. But if you would be watching what the scene really looked like, you'd be laughing. Like there is no boat there's nobody drowning. No one died. You know what I mean? Nothing really happened. Like you ever see it when the camera, is right up at the person and you see like there was nothing. This whole thing was an illusion. It was all false, right? And you're looking at these movie stars and I wish my husband looked like him, or I wish, and later you see the movie star, they take off their heels, they take off their eyelashes, they take off their extensions, they take off the 4 hours that it took to make them up, they take off the false shirt with the muscles inside, and then you've got this like, I'm being real, and we don't realize that. They take off the girdle, they take off the fake everything, and then, so the Torah tells you, be very careful with these things. See the bigger picture. Don't make the mistake of running after things that really are an illusion. Right? So they sound funny, but they're not. So one of the illusions that they had, that they fooled themselves with, was they wanted power. And there was a part of them that said, you know what, like he enticed them with an illusion. He enticed her when he said, you know what, if you ate from the Eitz Hadas, then you would be like Hashem and you would know, right? The knowledge of good and evil. That was an illusion. It was a total illusion. They couldn't create a thing. They came into a world where the creator created every single thing, including them. Like, what an illusion. You're going to eat from this little thing and you're going to be as powerful as Hashem. So we have to be really careful. Sometimes you like look at leaders and you go, I could do a much better job than that rabbi. He's such an idiot. Okay. Right? It's an illusion. All right. Or I could do a much better job than this one or that one. Or do you know what I'm trying to say? So it's like really important for us to really chapzach. All right. Be very careful. Like you don't want to have these like silly illusions. All right. That are actually what the Torah tells you. They're very dangerous. Okay. And you really have to talk to yourself. The beauty of the Torah, I'm going to end with this. The beauty of the Torah is it's analyzing every little bit of their mistake because it wants to give you what?
Guidance.
What?
Guidance.
Guidance. This is a funny part about going to war, but you need to know when they go to war, the most important part, like you think it's the Marines and it's the what's it called, combat soldier, it's the paratrooper. You know who is the most important part of a war? It's intelligence. It's knowing your enemy. Because it doesn't help me if I go in with 1,000 airplanes if I never investigated the fact that they have the greatest guns that shoot down an airplane in a second. So the greatest way you could ever win a war is intelligence. So Shem is trying to tell you, these are the very first people who tripped up. Let me explain to you why they tripped up. And you, as a woman, you relate to why Chava tripped up. Right? So we as women, like, we got to be sensitive to what did she do? Because you realize that what she did changed the destiny of the world. Okay. Now it's interesting. We don't hate her for it. We admire her. We're going to learn from her. We're not, condemning her or condemning women. We're just saying this can be our pitfalls. So let's be smart and realize in our own lives, we have a world that we're creating ourselves, our families, our children. We're helping people we nurture. So we got to be careful how we interact. So there's much more. It can go on forever, this class. Okay, so we're going to have to do Chava next week, but I think it's very worthwhile and to really understand like the punishment, which in Yiddishkeit means therapy. Punishment doesn't mean whack you for no reason. Punishment means it's a therapy that will help you to correct these issues. And then we'll go through her therapy, which is going to be completely politically incorrect. So stay tuned. All right. Okay, so now it is a very important time for us to daven. We say Tehillim now. right? And Sandy, you will lead us. Yes, please. And we do Tehillim chapter 121, and we do this in the merit of